welcome back to our second part of learning about psychedelic rock and Bouzouki dub from the Czech architect and musician Urban Fungus, who uses fuzzy clouds of reverbs and delays. In the previous episode, we found out about his inception of the two projects, adopting an ancient instrument and breaking down one of his songs, Holy Drug. Today we'll be covering his songwriting inspiration, how a song comes to life, his attitude towards making music, and a potential collaboration for Bouzouki dub. So let's continue. Now, when you say you're aiming for an album, all three songs have something in common. Are you continuing the theme to have the album like the similar concept, something that really fits there?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I'm a big fan of concept albums, like Sgt. Pepper or whatever, you know. So I think at first I didn't see it, but in retrospect, when you write a song, you don't really know what you're writing it about until somebody points it out to you, or like maybe a year or two later you found out, oh, it was actually about those things, you know. Probably that was going on in my life. So yeah, I think like all the songs are a bit like introspective, but at the same time they're a bit about, you know, like dramatic landscapes, I would say. As I write in the bio, like bunch of songs that were written under starry desert nights and on the shores of like Taiwan's oceans and then deep in the mountains or something.
So nature is your great inspiration. That's where you go, you just unplug yourself, you take a little notebook, the guitar, and that's where it comes in.
I wouldn't say it's inspiration, but it's maybe the contrasted or dramatic environment that channels your inner feelings maybe or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, no, that sounds awesome.
I think the magic thing with songs or in general with art is like anybody finds their answer in it and it could be very different.
That's why I'm asking, because perhaps other people who are here, I like to ask what's their creative process or how they come up around their song. And there's one particular girl that comes to mind, Aju. She's a very city girl. So she takes all her inspiration from like the city life and her own anxiety or perhaps like not so positive emotions and turns them into song, and that gives her like the space to little distance herself. So that's kind of like beautiful. Like you take that, make it into that, and now you say that Holy Drug, you just wrote it in Nan'ao while looking at the scene. There's some poetic value to it when you say it like this. It's really nice.
I think like most of the songs I just wrote home alone in my bedroom or something, but the initial inspiration, like, or I wouldn't call it inspiration, the initial like push like always comes from some experience like this. But I would still think like most of the inspiration is you're channeling some feelings. It's basically also like a, how do you call it, medicine or something. Like it goes from your body into your hand into the guitar and then sounds somehow, and then you have like a basic concept, but that's not a song, and then you have to like meet people and then jam it out and make it into something. This is the hardest part for me.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, now let's say that you're in Taiwan for a couple of months. You get the inspiration, get the idea, you go back, you write it down, you make it into something, as you say, basic concept. Now, what happens next? Like, do you just send it to your mates and do you try to talk about it and perhaps do a Zoom little meeting, or do you wait until you go home? Or do you find people here to kind of like give it life?
Oh no, they don't really care. I mostly like try to do it, or I mostly do it myself, like until I have a demo or scratch track. And that's why it always takes me like around 2 years to finish a song. So if you hear any song, it's probably about things that were going on 2 years ago. and yeah, once I have a demo, then I take it to the band and we try to jam it out. And of course I don't write the drums or anything, but just some basic concepts. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to have been able to work with different bassists and drummers, like, you know, in Taiwan, Czech Republic, because everybody
supplies different ideas for sure. Yeah. I do have one question here that I don't think really applies to you, but like, do you ever consider doing something for your audience? Like what people would, if you want to stick into some genre and use the elements in there, or do you just go purely just do your own thing and whoever likes it, likes it? Like, have you ever considered like, perhaps I would do this differently because it could be more welcome?
Yeah, I don't think so. First problem is I have to like it, and then I don't know what happens with it after that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest critic, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more like how you approach music, because I'm an architect or designer, and so music is more, I try to approach it. Of course, I would like to make some money with it, but for now it's basically just more like a calling, you know. So I would not like to let an expectation to interfere with it. But we all create our own expectations and, you know, our influences. But that's all right.
Very well said, yeah. All right, out of all your songs or covers, if you will, do you have a favorite to perform that is always like, yes, this song's coming up? Because you had quite a lot of performances in Taiwan and back in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So would there be one?
I think maybe I would call out two. One is the first single we released, "Come Along." That's more like a, you know, I call it like 60s jangly, maybe Beatles-ish, like good vibe song. You know, like maybe the one you put on when you're on your porch in the afternoon or sunset, smoke a ciggy and have a bit of a drink. So that's more like a, you know, everything is gonna be alright and a good vibe song. That one's always fun to play. It's a bit quick and you can like move around a bit.
It was made for you, yeah. Well, everyone, have you ever looked deep into your mind? Might be surprised, yeah, what you will find.
And the other one is One More Pill. Yeah, that's a long song.
7 minutes something, right?
Yeah. It's more like it's a bit about pain, I would say, and starts a bit like dreadful. So maybe some people won't like it because, I don't know, some friends told me, "Oh, it's so depressive." Not for me really. But then it goes into like this, I don't know how to call it, like a hazy clouds full of reverb and delays, you know, psychedelic stuff. And yeah, it's people like move around to it, and I think those two are my favorites. No, I mean in general, like you should not come sober to our concert. Like, I would have at least 3 shots of beers. That's what I mean.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, friendly advice.
If I were to ask you perhaps something, because you said now that you don't really have like stable, well you do, but back home. So when you're here, do you also work with the same people most of the time?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question would be if you have any memorable moment as a band that something happened that kind of like pushed you forward, that was like, oh yeah, nice, this is a little milestone and just made you proud.
I think it's not one, but a bunch of small memorable moments. But I remember 1 year ago, we played in Revolver in Taipei with like a bunch of other bands. And yeah, just like all friends came, and it's just like a really heartwarming experience when everybody gets together, and this is the things that keeps you kind of going or pushing. Is like, hell yeah, like maybe I should record some of those songs or something like that.
Yeah.
Another nice experience was in summer we played at a venue in Czech Republic, and we were opening for Elephant Stone, like a big Canadian psychedelic rock band that actually used sitar. So that was also really nice. But yeah, in general, it's basically 2 things. It's like somehow channeling your ideas or feelings, and the second thing is about when people actually come and listen to it, and just getting together. Just, you know, that's, I would say, what I'm doing it for.
That's amazing, really, because you don't just say like, yeah, I've been on that show, that TV, or like I got this many views. It's like, yeah, people came together and got in one place, which is kind of hard nowadays to assemble that many friends in one place in one time. Yeah, so
I mean, I've been to Radio Taiwan International. That was my most memorable thing.
That's the correct answer.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
I wanted to. I'll delete the rest. All right, when you perform and do your live thing, do you have any I would say a little ritual that you kind of want to follow through. Like maybe I heard a bunch of things. I found it when I asked it, and the answer sometimes you have like this one band leader just bought bananas for the team, and it was like the banana kind of held like a power. Like we have banana, we're fine because it has magnesium. It calms you down, and they were like, it's time to start concert. Or another guy was like, he needs to wash hands a couple of times before the performance.
I think it depends on my project. If it comes to the Bouzouki project, I bought this little carpet, which I put. So I'm performing usually kneeling on this carpet, sometimes standing up because of the pedals. It looks like a ritual, but it's actually just pragmatics, so I don't like destroy my knees. But it looks like a carpet prayer, and it's like a Mediterranean instrument.
It goes hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, and then with the band stuff, I don't know. I like to have some tea before that, and then I need a beer, but only after maybe the first or second song. So I usually tell somebody in the audience like, "Hey, can you get me a beer?" But only after the second song.
Why not in the beginning? You want to stay sharp and just ease into it?
Yeah, it's usually like your singing deteriorates when you drink beer or playing. So
practical again.
Yeah, it's gotta come at the right spot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because not sometimes, but most of the time I hear to have a beer, 2, 3 before. So like get the jitters out, kind of relax, but not over 3 because then the guitar might get sloppy. So it's like just the perfect amount. Everybody has their number, and then just have it beforehand. But I like that you have it until.
Yeah, I think you can experiment with that. If you have a favorite band, or just bring them beers after every song and see how the music changes.
The last song. So between the two of your projects, what would you say is the biggest hurdle apart from, let's say, long distance and having like stable players right at the reach of your hand? And perhaps because you're busy with other stuff, it's not like you're just focused on music with lots of cash behind you. So taking time to release it. Is there anything else that you would point out as a kind of like a challenge, a hurdle for your project?
Yeah, I think it's the things you said, like balancing basically life, because as I said, I mostly do architecture, so music is the thing I do like at night, so that would be one hurdle. The second hurdle, I think, is for most musicians, like who maybe I don't have like an organized approach to it. I have more like a feeling approach to it. So I come up with something, and then it's just a riff or concept, and then it's lying there, and then maybe come back to it, or I jam it out, and then so like kind of finishing something till I'm happy with it. That could be a hurdle, especially you change over time, and sometimes I change quicker than my songs. So even like releasing this first single, which I come up with like 3 years ago, and we recorded it in last summer, and when I released it in December, I was like, it already sounds a bit old. I would change like some stuff, But I think like whatever, just release it, and I don't know. I think that would be the biggest hurdle.
Relaxed approach, because a lot of people will be like, oh, it's not good enough, like I need to work on it, it could always be better. But I feel like you just perhaps wrote some songs, let them there, lay for a bit, then you come back to it. Oh, little upgrade, okay, release it next. It feels natural, I would say.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to go back to life and experience something, and then you come back, it's like waiting there for you till you I always say like you only can read as much as you live, so maybe the same thing applies to songs.
Very good. Oh, this one. So when you create music or people listen to your recording concert, is there any meaning, message that you hope that the listeners pick up on, and that they have this kind of experience?
Not directly, really, but there's not that many listeners, hey? But
we'll make it.
But I think with both projects, and I think that's the thing with psychedelic music, you're trying to kind of paint, I'm not sure if story is the right word, maybe like atmosphere or environment. Psychedelic really just means mind expanding, right? So I don't know, maybe with the Bouzouki project, it sounds very, some people would say, exotic oriental. I mean, even for me. so maybe that gets people into a different space in their head, and different space could mean as a frequency, so maybe different moves, and just to explore something new. And maybe the same with the guitar psychedelic rock project, as to maybe get out of your routine thinking. Mostly I write it for myself, right? Like, so stuck out of you, maybe, those thoughts or this like everyday life, and try to open up your mind to other things, other places, and maybe see another path that you haven't seen before. If there's a message, I wouldn't call it message, like ethics rather.
That's really beautiful.
But mostly it's just for fun too. Like I think playing with people is the whole purpose. But yeah, if you want to support me, you can go on my Bandcamp.
We'll throw it out there for sure. Now, you kind of answered it. If I were to ask you about the music industry in general in Taiwan and Czech Republic, you pointed out the difference of like the different genres collaborating, which is, I would say, very specific and very, very good in a way. Would you have any other comments of the difference of how people approach the live performances and the music in Taiwan?
Well, back home, remember, I plan to like go to Taiwan, so where's home? But
so past home and future home.
Yeah, well, we are. This whole ball is home. Can you specify a question? Like, you mean
like any differences for the listeners? Like, you're from Czech Republic, so when you go to a concert, do people behave differently? The liked music, the top charts, radio, anything like perhaps grants from government, whatever you can pick from industry. What is the difference there and here?
Yeah, I don't know much about music scene, to be honest, when it comes to this side. I think in general, people as audience, they are very the same, I would say. When it comes to, if you say government support, I've heard like Taiwan is like a great system for music or art support.
Pretty generous for sure.
Yeah, although I've heard it's been cut down recently.
Also true.
So I don't know about that, but like a difference from my perspective as a small band where you do everything yourself, it's a bit difficult in Taiwan to find a venue that doesn't want, or in Taipei at least, high like rent. You know, it's like usually, you have to 30,000 is the rent to or even more to rent this place. Whereas back in Czech Republic, Prague, there's a bunch of bars and venues, and the playing there is usually for free, or it will cost like 4,000 to get a sound engineer and stuff. I think it's maybe a bit more easier in Europe. And the same goes with like bands coming in town, right? Because Taiwan is an island nation, so it's expensive to fly people in to perform here. And when like some not even that big bands come in, the tickets are very expensive compared to, you're from Slovakia, you should know.
Yeah, of course, because if you have I don't know, whoever, Pink Floyd, Robbie Williams comes to Vienna, you know that people from around will flock just to listen to you, right? So it's easier to just go. But in Taiwan, even my perspective from what I saw, like even if you have a local festival and majority of the bands are Taiwanese, the ticket still might go for like, I would say around 100 euros, which I'm thinking back home, you can have like Colors of Ostrava or like
bigger
Pohoda or something, and you have like huge names coming there pretty much. Sting might appear, Shaggy or something. And I'm thinking like, that's not fair. But then again, it's an island, as you said, and it's just, that's how it works with the tickets, airplane, anything. Like it's just easier because that's the monopoly and it's right here. So you might have to.
But I also have to say, from my experiences to visiting a bunch of Taiwanese like festivals, especially in nature, it was mostly electronic music festivals. Usually it's a combination, right? They're more creative. They put much more effort and input into the stage design, the setting. So maybe it's worth the money, And I don't know how much artists get paid here and there, and I don't want to compare that because I get paid with beers. But I would say it's justifiable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Valid point. I was just going for the names that appear, but as you say, the handling of the festival, I feel like pretty good grip for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I have two more questions for you before I let you go. And one would be, I know it's a whole journey and process and everything, so it takes time and you develop different ideas. And as you said, you change within like the span of 3 years. If you were to do something differently perhaps on an existing song, or the way you, let's say just for future performances, or once you move to Taiwan, like you're fully settled in Taiwan, what would be something that you are like, okay, I'm going to do this differently than before?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because, in retrospect, everything can be better or changed.
But it's good to have like a clear idea, because, some people would just be like, oh, I wish I could do better. But then you ask like, what would be better?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe if you, just a very technical thing, but, it might not really interest anybody, is the first single I released. So I always sing the same vocal melody line. So now when I perform it, I'm actually like changing that, and it gets a bit repetitive. So I was listening to my own song, and after a few listens, like, this is bloody annoying. So
there you go.
Dear listeners, don't listen to it too much.
No.
But yeah, and I think maybe a better answer would be, especially with the Bouzouki project, is just collaborate more and meet like different people. With the Bouzouki thing, I would like to also try. I have a bunch of concept or demos which are like totally out of time and everything. It's just like really just for me to kick myself to do something. But what I want to do with it is maybe release a compilation, and each song or each bunch of songs are made with a different, called producer or somebody who makes beats. So that would be really, really, really nice.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
And maybe one song just not electronic but traditional with those instruments I mentioned before.
Yeah.
So that would be something I would be happy if happens.
So I could see that different, like maybe you have 8 different songs and it's all completely different featuring. There's a new instrument that comes in, and as you said, well, purely instrumental. I did notice there was one song that was there was a lady on vocals. I don't know if she was singing, I can't recall if she was singing like lyrics or just something like la 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 along those lines.
I don't know either.
But that would be also awesome to like input that, just to have the human voice. It wouldn't even have to be lyrical, just something, some line, and it just would add like a little heavenly, godly feeling to the whole thing. That would be...
Yeah. I tried it myself. I failed, so I think it's better to invite people. There was, by the way, a cool Taiwanese artist, Lika, who's like involved in the noise and punk scene. So Taiwan's music scene is pretty amazing.
Good to know. All right. Very last question for you would be, if you were to, let's say, share words of wisdom to any other musicians in general, starting bands, psychedelic band explorers, or even your past self, would you have anything to share?
I think it's very specific. Everybody's got different problems, but approaches, yeah. I think like what helps me is I get stuck. There's 2 phases, right? One phase is come up with a song. That usually happens through something you go through, like feelings or some experience you have, either positive or negative or whatever. So that's the easy part for me, I would say. The difficult part is to, as we talked about, to finish it off. And what helps me there is actually both in architecture and in music is to read. I don't know, I read this book by Paul McCartney he released, and I like the story behind each songs. Or like watch some documentary about, that band you like, or actually the best is actually maybe go see bands, and sometimes it's shit, and it's like, I could maybe try to do that a little bit better. This is like 1% of the time. 99% is like, oh wow, they are damn good. I wish I could do something like that. So just get those kicks, like throw yourself in the water and
get inspiration from everywhere.
Yeah, maybe inspiration, or rather like motivation. I think this is
better
like,
word,
yeah. Or I think the best thing is always to actually commit to a bloody like deadline. So there was actually when I was like doing this art residency back in Taiwan and 3 years ago, and that's actually how this project really started, the psychedelic thing. I had those demos and I just couldn't finish them, and I met a friend who runs a pizza shop, and he's like, oh, I have this space under my pizza shop and it's just a storage and I want to do something out of it. So I'm like, okay, what about I finish the demos and you make this place into something, and it's gonna be 1 month and we make a event, a gig. He's like, okay, deal. So I tried to struggle to finish with the demos, and I called the event Rabbit Hole Demos, and he made a great job. He made this thing into a real like rabbit hole from Alice in Wonderland, like, so he made this place into something, and a great venue. And then it's again collaboration. I think you have to push yourself, give each other a bit of deadlines, a bit fire under your bum, so that helps.
Excellent. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
That's all, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to today's discussions with Urban Fungus. If you like what you heard, go search him up and show some support. That's Urban Fungus, or head over to the website where I'm going to post the relevant links. And just as usual, let's enjoy one of his Bouzouki dub project's track called Data Leak.